Okay, what was the last thing anybody heard? Because I've been talking for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to the questions window. And let me stop recording. Participation. Okay, it looks like we had the audio cut out shortly around this slide. So I'm just going to repeat these steps. And these are the ways to check out a customer. So in the appointment book, you can right click and check out a client. Also, if you click one time on an appointment, on the touch tip that pops up, you do have a checkout button. And in the point of sale screen, you can actually use the pull down menu to check out a customer. Now I'm actually going to show you, so we're going to get caught up, how to check out a client, how to update the services and products in the actual point of sale. And of course, working with different payment amounts. So I'll get out of the presentation and right into shortcuts. Now, the easiest way I just showed a moment ago, and I suppose there was no audio, you right click on an appointment and you go to checkout. But here are the other ways you can do this. If you right click and mark any appointment as arrived, this is important for the front desk, this is important for your team. As customers actually get in the chair, get into the habit of right clicking and marking them as arrived. What appears on this pop up list are actually the statuses of the appointment. So if a customer confirms their appointment and you have automatic confirmation text or emails go out, then as the customer replies, it actually changes the color of the appointment. If a customer makes an appointment online, it actually shows up in yellow, needs review. And, and I have a feeling I know what triggered that microphone to cut off. When I received an incoming call, I think that's what turned it off. Okay, so the other things you can do is when you right click and you mark somebody as a no-show, it changes it to red. So all of these colors let your staff know because they're working across the room. They can't look at the details on the computer, but just by looking at the colors under their column, they know who made an appointment online or that somebody made an appointment online. They know that somebody's a no-show just based on the colors. The other thing that this does is changing the status can actually trigger an event. If I mark somebody as a no-show, then 30 minutes later, Shortcuts has the ability to send this customer either a text or an email to say, hey, we were expecting you. Let's have you call to reschedule. So just get in the habit of right-clicking and marking customers as arrived. When you do that, what happens is when you go directly to point of sale, you can use the pull-down menu and all of those customers that you marked as arrived, their names show up here. So I can choose Rad or Julia, and I can check them out right from here. Now, if you have a barcode scanner and you've scanned in the barcodes of your products in your inventory, then as soon as you scan it in here, Shortcuts will automatically add whatever that product is. Or you can manually click on a blank row, choose if a staff member or the business is getting credit for this upsell, and whether the customer had an add-on service or a product. And from this menu, so it looks a little bit different than it does in Shortcut 7. If the customer wants to buy 2 bottles of shampoo, I can just press the plus or minus button and adjust the quantity. And if the customer changes their mind and they don't want to buy a product, there's a trash can icon on the right side. So I can press that and get rid of the product. Also on this window, this is something important that everybody on your staff should recognize. There is a discount column and there is a discount button at the bottom of the screen. And these buttons actually do 2 different things. If your salon or your spa or your barbershop has a discount that they give customers on their birthday, usually it's for a service. So that is when you want to select which item is going to receive the discount. So you would actually click the column and tell Shortcuts, is it the service or the product receiving the discount? If instead I press the discount button at the bottom of the screen, then Shortcuts is going to try to apply the discount to as many things as it can. So just bear that in mind. Usually your promotions apply to just one specific thing. So in this case, if it was Julia's birthday and she had a birthday coupon, I would choose just the service, choose my discount reason, and maybe I'm not going to give her 100% off. I can choose any one of my other coupons. So in this case, I'll say it's the We Miss You. So the We Miss You is $20. So it deducts 20 from her total, and now the customer can pay with her credit card. And remember, Shortcuts does have the ability to print or email receipts. So this is a great way to capture that client information if you never got their email the first time they visited. Now, if you have a group situation, mom and dad bring in the kids, or a couple of friends are paying for the haircuts, how do you handle that? Well, as I said a moment ago, you can right click and get into the habit of arriving all of these customers. So as soon as one person says they actually want to pay for their haircut and their friends or their wedding party or their kids, this is how you would do it. So John's ready to check out. I go to checkout like normal. And he mentions, oh, I'm also going to pay for my other friend's haircut. Okay. So what you would do from the pull down menu at the top of the screen is go to group. And Shortcuts is going to ask you, who is in this group? So I'm going to say John is in this group and Lana is in this group. So this group can be as big as I want. So I'll say John, Lana, and perhaps Robert. So those three people, at the bottom of the screen, I'll press done. And now Shortcuts has given me one total for all of their services. So each employee still gets credit for what they did. So for your reports, they're still correct. But now only one person has to pay. Now, if one of the customers in the group wants to buy a product, well, technically, you don't sell a group of three people one bottle of shampoo. You tell Shortcuts who in this group is going to get the shampoo. And this is just so that it goes into their history. So in this case, Lana is the one that's going to get the shampoo. So using the pull down menu, I can select just one person in the group, Lana. I'll click a blank row, and in this case, I'll say Joe again. Did an upsell. Joe's really good with upsells, and he got some shampoo. So the shampoo's been added to her ticket. Now I can use the pull down and return to group number 1. And my total has been updated. So I'll press the credit card button. Again, the customer will give me a MasterCard in this case. I'll press done and finish my sale. In a group ticket or in a group transaction, you actually have the ability to tell Shortcuts who's going to get the receipt. And this is based on who do you have the email or the contact information for. In this case, John's going to pay for it, so he should get the receipt. So I'll say no receipt for now and finish my sale. So that's actually how you group customers. Now let's go through that again and do something a little bit different. So normally when a customer checks out, if you do not have an integrated credit card system, and we're using GPI with Shortcuts right now, normally you would press the card button, Shortcuts will connect to the machine, find out how much the tip is. So the customer will actually just press a button on the machine or type in the amount, and you don't have to ask them for a tip. But if your machine does not communicate with Shortcuts, it's not integrated, and they're paying with a credit card, then you need to find out what the tip was. So normally they write it on the receipt, and then you give the staff the tip cash from your register. So in that scenario, you give the customer the total. So George says, I tell him it's $34.32, runs his card, writes on the receipt a $5 tip. So I need to tell Shortcuts there was an adjustment. So this is where I press the tip button. Shortcuts will ask, should Andy get the tip since he did the haircut? I'll say yes, and click on his name to confirm it. And I'll say, George adjusted it by $5. and I'll press done. So now that I've adjusted it, now I can press the card button and say George paid with a Visa. This is his actual total. And then I will press done and finish my sale. Again, these extra steps only happen if you do not have an integrated credit card system. So if you've been on the fence thinking about it, it's very easy to get that using our new partner GPI. And even in a group transaction, it allows the customer to split the tip, or it allows the receptionist to split the tip and choose, should it be an even tip across all of the staff members, or should it split the tip depending on the value of the service. So if your assistant does a shampoo, and of course your senior stylist does the color, does the haircut, does everything, should the tip be split evenly? Probably not. And an integrated credit card system allows your staff or allows the customer to do that. And it splits the tip based on the value of the service. So let's go back to the presentation. So I was talking about splitting the tip. So you actually have the ability to do that even without an integrated credit card system. On a group transaction, you can manually choose from the pull-down list which customer is leaving the tip for which employee and how much. So there's a few other things that you can do in the point of sale. We've looked at the discount button and we've looked at the discount column. So remember, there's a difference between the two. The majority of you will only be using the column because you're selecting the item that's going to receive the discount. Also, if you're working with tips and you're paying tips from the register, make sure you're recording them accurately so that at the end of the day, your end of day takings, your float, all balances out. And you do have the ability to set shortcuts and tell it, no, you're not paying tips from the register. Instead, you just want shortcuts to record the tip amount because you're going to write a check separately at the end of the pay period. So when you're grouping clients, remember, mark them as arrived. This will allow you to find the customer a little bit easier when you go to point of sale. So you just choose hashtag group, choose the names of the customers in the group, and then press done. You have the ability to sell certain items to particular members in that group. Whether it's a service or a product, you can update the ticket that way so that that information goes directly to the customer's history. So there's other types of checkouts in the point of sale. Let's say a customer walks in and they're very private. They don't want to give you their name, their phone number, their email, nothing. They just want a bang trim, pay for it, and they're out. So you can actually do a quick sale by using the pull down and selecting walk-in. If a customer walks in off the street and they just want to buy some shampoo, then you can also go directly to point of sale, use the pull down, and select hashtag retail. And again, shortcuts will not ask for any contact information. It'll just ask who did the sale, what was the item, and how did the customer pay. So that's a fast way to get a transaction. So let's actually look at that. So in point of sale, at the top of the screen, if a customer walks in, they just want a haircut, they don't want to give you their information, you just go directly to a point of sale to walk in, click a blank row, and we'll say who did the haircut. Andy did the haircut. Was it a product or a service? It was a service. And what did he do? Andy did a men's haircut. We'll press done. The customer paid cash, and I'll finish the sale. So Shortcuts doesn't even ask me what's the email of the customer. It'll just finish the sale and ask the customer if I want to print a receipt or not. If a customer walks in and they just want to buy a retail product, then use the pull down hashtag retail. And as soon as you click a blank row, Shortcut skips the option for service. It goes directly to your inventory. So I can select an item, shampoo, done. And again, the customer paid cash. And that's it. I'll finish my sale. And if the customer wants a receipt, I can press the receipt button. So we've looked at least 3 different ways to check out customers: single customers, group customers, as well as walk-in and retail customers. But there's a couple of other things you can do with the pull-down menu. If you want to track your actual back bar items, so at the end of the week, maybe you have an empty bottle of conditioner or an empty color tube, and you want to scan it out so that your inventory is updated, you would go to #business. And then Shortcuts will actually ask you, okay, what did the staff use? Again, you can use your barcode scanner and scan in the item, or select business as the employee and scan out your actual back bar. So that's usually your color. So once you scan out anything that the staff finished, when you press finish sale, Shortcuts has actually recorded this as a business expense, and it deducts one of these items from your inventory. So if you've never done that before, I'd like you to get into the habit of starting to track your back bar. So that's going to help Shortcuts help you calculate what you're actually using, calculate your business expenses, make sure that you know what the hot items are or what the staff is going through and how quickly. So just start to get into the habit of using business as the expense. Now, if you're using Shortcut 7, you don't have the #business here on the pull down menu. Instead, you would select the client button on the top left corner, and on your client list, you actually have a customer called #business. So just keep that in mind. These are slight differences between what you see on this window and what you see on the previous one, or the previous build of Shortcuts. So let's cancel here and go back to the presentation. So how do you process a refund? So this is something you might never have done, or it's been a long time. So remember, Shortcuts records all of the customer's visits in the history. So every client has a client card, every client has a history, and any service, any product, any notes, they're all going to be there. So let's say it's something simple. A customer just bought a conditioner, they get home and they realize the cap was broken, so it's been leaking. So they come back and they say, hey, the cap was broken, can I get another bottle? Normally you would just exchange it for a new bottle. But unfortunately, that was the last bottle you had in stock. So you're going to give the customer a refund. So to do that, you actually go to the client's history, right-click on the specific item, and tell Shortcuts, this is a refund. And then the customer gets transferred into the point of sale. And Shortcuts will actually show you, this is -1, they're returning an item. When you press finish sale, Shortcuts will actually ask, how is the customer getting their money back? Are you going to put it back on their card? Are you going to give them cash back? Are you going to put this money in their account? And then what are you going to do with this bottle that they just returned? Are you going to put it back on the shelf? Or if it's broken, are you going to throw it away? And in either case, Shortcuts make sure to update your inventory levels. So let's actually do that. Let's actually go and do a refund. So I've just had a few customers check out. We'll go to the last person that checked out. Let's see, I think it was George. And who did George buy a product? No, George left a tip. I think Julia. No, yeah, Julia got some shampoo. So Julia realizes there was something wrong with the bottle. She's returning it. So right from the point of sale, I can press, oh, somebody has a question, stand by. Did somebody have a question right now? I saw the hand go up. That was curious. Huh, okay. So let's, I think Barbara had a question, or maybe there was an interruption here. Barbara, if you had a question, there is a chat window or a question window on the right. I'll let you type out what the question is. So as Barbara's typing the question, so Julia is going to get a refund. So I'm going to press New Sale on the top left corner. If you're using shortcut 7, the New Sale button is actually the client's button. So I'm going to search for the customer, Julia, and then I'm going to go to her history. Once I'm in history, I find, this is the item. You actually bought 2 shampoo bottles today, and she's only returning one of those. So I need to be very careful with this. I'll right click on her shampoo, and I'm going to choose Refund. So Shortcuts has moved those shampoo bottles into the point of sale. So I'll press Done and go to the next window. Now notice, Shortcuts says quantity -2. Shortcuts thinks she's returning both of the bottles of shampoo. So I need to fix that. And say, no, she's only returning one of the bottles. She's going to keep the other one. So it's quantity -1. So now, when I press Finish Sale, Shortcuts is going to say, how is Julia getting her money back? In this case, I'll just give her cash. Second thing, if this bottle is broken, I either say this is a defective product or an incorrect product. Well, she didn't choose the wrong product. This was defective. What am I going to do with it? Am I going to put it back on the shelf? No. Am I going to discard it? More than likely. Or am I going to return it to the manufacturer? I'm going to discard it, but I'm going to let my rep know, hey, one of these bottles was bad, send me a new one. Once I press Done, Shortcuts will open up the register, let me give Julia her cash back, and even give me a receipt. And it will also adjust my inventory levels to let me know there was only one retail product that was sold. I had to discard the other one. Okay, so let me go back to the question window and let's see if okay. I think everybody can hear me now. Let me go back. And why does the hand keep coming up? Barbara, are you asking a question or let me reset that? I think it might be a previous thing. Okay, so let's go back. So that's actually how you handle a refund in the point of sale. So back to the presentation. Now, correcting a transaction after you finish the sale. So how do you fix it? So normally you catch all of your edits in the point of sale screen. Unless the receptionist or the front desk person is super swamped, they're just going through checking out customers as fast as they can. And then they realize there was a mistake after the fact. So how do you go back and fix it? Whether it was how the customer paid or who gets credit for the service. You can actually do that by going to the transactions button in the point of sale screen. And you can update either the customer or the payment type. So how do you fix it? So in the point of sale, I want you to press the transactions button. You're going to see a list of everybody that visited that day. And once you select it, you can actually right click a particular item, or select it by left clicking and at the bottom of the screen choosing whether you're adjusting the employee or the payment type. So let's actually see that in real time. So I'm in the point of sale. I'm the receptionist. Perhaps I had a few customers come in and I checked them out quickly. I just want to double check. So I'll go to transactions. This is everybody that's visited so far. And I can press the plus button next to each visit to expand that list. And I'm just double checking. Okay, Joe came in. I remember Julia came back. She got a refund. This is my group transaction. That's all fine. George. Oh, wait a minute. When George came in, Andy didn't do the haircut. I don't know why it says Andy did the haircut. So I need to fix this. Not only fix that, but Andy shouldn't be getting the tip. He didn't do the haircut. So I'm selecting George's visit And at the bottom of the screen, I'm going to edit employee. And Shortcuts will ask me, okay, what do I want to fix? I'm going to fix Andy here. So I'll choose Andy's name and then press employee. And I'll say Sam actually did this haircut. Also, Andy shouldn't get the tip. Again, I'll select employee. And Sam was not actually clocked in, but he clocked in today. So I'll select from all my employees. And I'll correct that mistake. So Sam has now been given the credit for that. Now you do have the ability to create reasons for why there was an adjustment. So you'll want to create transactions reasons. And in this case, this was a test transaction. So that's my only reason, but I can create others, such as front desk was preoccupied, or this was my assistant that did the transaction, whatever the reason is. So I have a record of it. And if you notice, now transaction actually shows me there was an amendment made on who did the haircut. So you do have a complete audit trail for whenever somebody makes an adjustment after the transaction is closed. Now, if there was a royal mistake, somebody really messed up, you do have the ability to right-click and void a transaction. So if it wasn't something simple, like the wrong employee or the wrong payment type, if you right-click, you do have the ability to void it. Again, this is protected by security. So Shortcuts will ask you, why are you changing this, and do you have permission to change this? And this does show up on your report, and the void does show up on your transaction history. So it's not like staff members can just go in here, right-click, and start changing things. This is protected by security, and you do have a log that records everything. But hopefully you catch all of your edits before it gets to that point. So again, you can go to transactions, find an egregious one and void it, and type in a reason for why you adjusted this. Now, before we close out the register at the end of the day, if you're paying out tips to your staff, or your receptionist or your manager is, whoever that is, normally they just take the tip then and there out of the register after the sale is finished. But if your staff is super busy, they don't have time to keep running back and forth. So at the end of the day, you actually have a report under employees called tips, and Shortcuts will show you all of the employees, what their totals were, and who left the tip. So at the end of the day, your manager or your receptionist, you might want to give them permission to run this report. They'll see how much everybody gets in cash tips and then have the correct one. So this is protected again by security, and you can decide who gets access to the tips report. Shortcuts also has the ability for the employee to declare the tips that they received when they're clocking off at the end of the day. So if you just want to make sure that the staff is indeed getting their tips, when they go to clock off, Shortcuts will say, how much were your tips today? Type them in so that it matches up with my records. So let's look at that. So before the end of the day, I want to look at my tips. So I'll go to Tools and Reports. And under the Employee button on the left side, I'll go to my tips report. And I'll view it just for today. So Shortcuts does allow you to view it up to the moment. So this tips report should be accurate as of right now. So in this case, Andy had a tip, but we took that away and instead we gave it to Sam. So Sam's getting $5 and that's all I have to take out for cash. And just like that. So the tips report makes sure that I'm able to track it all. Back to the presentation. So when we're ready to close the register, what are the steps? So we're going to go back to the Transactions button, and then we're going to press End Session. So once we press End Session, Shortcuts is going to show me, do I have multiple registers, a single register? which one am I about to close? If you have integrated credit cards, then Shortcuts will auto-populate those, and it's only going to ask you to count the total cash that you have. And this includes the float amount. On the following window, Shortcuts will actually ask you, are you sure your float was correct? Because if not, you have to adjust it before you count it out at the end. Otherwise, you're going to do a miscount. And then Shortcuts will show you these were your totals. This is what you counted. This is what Shortcuts expected. If they match up, then you can continue. You do have the ability to print your receipts in case there was a miscount, or just double check your receipt reports, your transaction reports. Now, if everything balances out, then Shortcuts will let you continue. But if it doesn't balance, for whatever reason, whether the customer left some change or whether the customer left a tip, you don't know who gets the tip, so you're over or under, then Shortcuts will ask you to leave a comment. And again, that comment is recorded by security. There is an audit trail here. So Shortcuts will say the manager went backwards and forwards adjusting this. This was the reason there was a miscount. So you have an actual way of tracking this. And then any cash that you have to deposit that's over your usual float amount, Shortcuts will say this is the difference. This is how much you need to set aside so that tomorrow you can open with whatever your normal amount is. So let's actually go through these screens. So of course, the final screen will show you the most popular reports, but let's actually go through the steps. So it's the end of the day. I'm going to point of sale and transactions. And at the end of the day, I'm going to press end session. If I have multiple registers, I would actually see the list of all the registers I'm about to balance. In this case, I just have one, this register. So I will go to the next window. So from here, I could point the individual bills and coins, and Shortcuts will give me a total. Or I could just type in a total cash and continue. Now, I know 300 is incorrect, but I'm going to continue anyways. Shortcuts warns me, am I absolutely sure I didn't adjust the float today? After I did my startup session, did I transfer any money in or out? If not, then I can continue. So I know my count is correct. My float was 250 when I started, and I closed with 300. So from here, Shortcut says, okay, I counted 300, but the system expected 279. If there was a miscount, I can print my receipts again, or I can go to the previous window, do a recount, and make sure everything's correct. So I'll go back and I'll just double check my register. So perhaps a couple of the bills were stuck together or I miscounted, and I go back and I fix it. So if every transaction was recorded correctly, I already paid out my tips, this should be my total. So I can continue. And Shortcut says, okay, after paying out tips, at the end of the day, I was $29.32 over my usual float. So this is actually the amount that I'm going to deposit tonight at the bank. So that tomorrow, I can start with $250 in my register. Now, if I decide I'm not going to run to the bank to deposit $29, I'll just leave that in the register for tomorrow. Then I can always add it to the float for tomorrow, so that instead of starting at $250, I'll start at $279 and 32 cents. So I'll just leave that in my float for tomorrow. And then I'll go to the next window. And that's it. Shortcuts gives me the option to print 3 of the most popular reports at the end of the day. The business log is the one that shows you the A to Z of everybody that used the computer today. Who clocked in, who clocked out, who did a haircut, who made an appointment. That's all in your business log. The session till drawer balance is actually the one that says who was doing your end of day. Did they go forwards and backwards? Did they do a miscount? Did they correct their mistake? That's your audit trail. Of these reports, the trading summary is the most popular for all businesses. So you can tell your receptionist or your manager, before you take out cash for tonight's deposit, print me a trading summary, leave it with the deposit, so that you know absolutely everything that happened today. And it's all on a one-page breakdown. But of course, if you're the owner, you're the manager, you have permission to run these reports whenever you want. You don't have to wait till the end of the day. So I'll press done. And once I press done, that's it until the next day. So tomorrow, my receptionist comes in or my manager comes in, they go to the transaction button, and they do a new start session. Now, normally, they would expect to have 250 in the register, but they recount and they realize, oh, somebody left money from yesterday. So tomorrow, my staff opens it with 279.32. And then they continue as normal. So let's go back. So that is performing an end of session. So now, minus the technical glitch at the start of the session, you should now know how to do both the start of session and an end of session, how to check out customers, how to check out retail products, walk-in customers, how to make adjustments, or how to issue refunds in the point of sale. So this is the part where we open the floor to you. So thanks for sticking through it. So does anybody have questions now? And if you're using the plugin, the GoToWebinar plugin, you do have a chat window, you do have a questions window. Go ahead and type out your message there, and I'll give you a few moments. And remember, today's topic is point of sale. So if there's something in the point of sale you need to learn how to do or that I can review, let me know. If you're watching this video after the fact and you still have questions for us, I'm going to put our customer care as well as our education information, so you can always reach out to us, and that includes on social media. If you ask us a question on Instagram or Facebook, we will get back to you. Okay. I'm checking. Thankfully, my microphone is still recording. And I don't think we have any questions. Well, if you do have questions and you're watching this after the fact, go ahead and reach out to us. Here's our customer care line. And if you want to visit us on Facebook, we're at Shortcuts North America. Same with Instagram, Shortcuts North America. So thank you all for attending. Now, if you have a Spanish-speaking staff, or your manager or your front desk is a little more comfortable with Spanish, we're actually doing Spanish versions of our classroom sessions on Wednesday. So tomorrow, we'll actually do the basics in the point of sale in Spanish. And that's going to be the case for the next two presentations as well. So thank you all for attending, and apologies for the glitch a little bit earlier. So we'll send out a copy of this recording later today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next session. Remember, we will also be doing advanced versions of these classes. So if the basics, you're way above that, that's fine. I'll see you for the advanced where we'll take on some other topics. Okay, everybody, have a great day.